All right,
I
and
got a notebook this big to fill up with notes.
good. Well, we are gonna record this session today. So for any reason you need to go back and listen to it or look at it again, it will be available and we'll send that link out to everyone who registered. Welcome to Beginning Genealogy. My name is Ann Lacey and I'm the Kansas Collection Librarian here at the Kansas City, Kansas Public Library. And I know we have people from Oklahoma and from Kansas, and I don't know about Missouri, but glad you could all be with us today. This is a very beginning genealogy class. So if you have already mapped out your family tree, it's probably going to be some review for you. But I just want to let you know that you can feel free to ask questions at any time through the class. Please keep yourself muted if you're not asking a question. And I hope that you all learn a little bit of something today. So to start off with, if I can get my slides to advance here. Why do we do genealogy? Well, because it's fun. I mean, I think it's fun. And if you're here today, you probably think it's fun too. It's a great way to learn more about your family and where they came from, to get a better understanding of history and how historic events shaped our family's lives. And to preserve your family story for future generations. If you map out your family tree and gather some great stories, it's a really wonderful opportunity to write that down and share it with the rest of your family. And you never know what you're going to find along the way. You could have famous ancestors that you didn't know about. You could uncover family secrets, especially if you are interested in DNA. Ancestry DNA. I have not done that myself, but I've heard stories of people who have and have found all kinds of surprising things. So where to start? Well, I want to tell you, actually, back one step. The first thing you need to do, and the most important thing that you can do in your research, is to interview your family. If you all are like me, you get interested in genealogy a little bit later in your life, and unfortunately, that's when some of the older family members are gone, and it's just great to sit down and talk to the people that you can, aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, anyone, and just get those stories, write them down. Look at some old family photos because those can provide amazing details of who, I mean, you'll find names and dates and places on the backs of those photos, and that can really provide you a great place, great jumping off place for your research. And the goal of genealogy research is to find those records that document your family history and can really tie people in your family to specific places in time, and get some documents and facts that will tell you about your family. So filling out some basic charts is a really helpful tool to start with, and you can find these pretty much anywhere online. You can find them on Ancestry or Family Search, or even if you just Google genealogy forms. This is a pedigree chart, and it's a great place to start because you basically fill in your name and your parents' names, and you just work backwards as far as you can. That will help you, map out that beginning tree to start to do your research. Also, another good form to have in your binder when you're getting started is the family group sheet, because it's a place to keep track of all your information about one specific family, the parents, children, marriage dates, birth dates, all that kind of thing. You can keep track of on this sheet. All right, and I want to start off by talking about some resources that you can find at the library, some good old-fashioned bricks and mortar genealogy. And once I go through this, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time on some of the online resources, and I'm going to walk you through how to use Ancestry and Family Search. So some of the really great things you can find at the library are things like cemetery indexes. They are so helpful if you know, for example, that, well, I have a great grandfather who died in Louisville, Kentucky, but I don't know when he died, and I want to find out more about his family. Well, a cemetery index is a place where you can look, and it has families listed by last name for each cemetery. So it makes it really easy to find where they were buried, what their date of death was, and then you can go back to that local newspaper and find an obituary where you can then find more information like, you know, family members that were left behind or parents, that kind of thing. So just one tool for getting more information about a person. An obituary index is similar. I know a lot of libraries or historical societies put these together, and people spent hours and hours clipping obituaries out of newspapers and putting them all into a big database or spreadsheet where you can look someone up by last name. And if you are lucky, then there will be an obituary, and it will tell you exactly what paper that appeared in, what date, and the page. So those can be a really helpful tool too. Newspapers on microfilm, a lot of communities have small papers that are not digitized. They don't have databases, or they're hard to find in newspapers.com or one of those subscription services. So going to your local library to look for newspapers on microfilm is another great tool, because that's where you can find so much local information about the community and about the families that live there. Maps can be wonderful too, and you can find those at libraries, you can find them at museums, historical societies, online. A lot of maps have been digitized. I know the Library of Congress has digitized plat maps from all over the country, and we have the 1887 Wyandotte County plat map here at the library, and it is fantastic because there's so much detail. It shows you parcels in 1887 and even who owned those parcels. So that's a great tool for figuring out exactly where your ancestors might have lived. Vertical files, those are files of newspaper clippings that libraries often keep, or information by family. There could be a vertical file on a family name if you're had to come from a prominent family in a community. But that can be another great place to look for newspaper clippings, and they're all organized by subject. So your local librarian will be happy to help you go through those. Also, city directories. City directories are kind of like phone books, but they are great because not only can you look someone up by name, but you can also look up an address and find who lived there over the years, and they come out every year. It's a great way to figure out, for example, if you had an uncle that lived downtown Kansas City, Kansas, but you don't know how long he lived there or maybe when he moved away. If you look in the city directories under that address, you can find out the years that person lived there. So those can provide some more clues on to where your ancestors or your family might have moved around to. Genealogy reference books are great, but there are reference books by subject on specific topics like people that came over, ship indexes, ship records, Irish immigrants, Native American ancestry, you name it. There is a book that will tell you about whatever specific genealogy topic you are interested in. State census data is really helpful as well. It was usually conducted on the 5s. So the federal census is every 10 years at the beginning of the decade, and state census was taken, and I don't know if they still are I'm sure they're conducting a state census, but I only ever look at the old ones. So those were every 5 years, and a lot of libraries and historical societies will have those on microfilm as well. Yearbooks. We have a huge yearbook collection here at the Kansas City, Kansas Public Library of Kansas City, Kansas public schools and some other schools in the metro area, but that can be a great place to look up ancestors. And I had somebody reach out not too long ago that they knew their grandfather had gone to Wyandotte High School, and they wanted to see if maybe there was a picture of him in the yearbook, and I found his picture and a picture of him in the orchestra, and they were just elated because they had never actually seen a picture of their grandfather before. So I'm always happy to help people with that kind of research too. And some libraries have digitize their yearbook collection. We have, it's almost 2,000 books that we spent the better part of a year scanning here at the library, and they're all available online. So that's another good place to check. And I think it's mostly libraries and probably historical societies and local history or county history museums that would have those collections. And then how-to books. I read The Complete Idiot's Guide to Genealogy cover to cover, and it gave me all kinds of insights and just great information about how to approach genealogy from a number of directions. So another place, some other places that you can go to find good information are, and these are Kansas City metro area specific. So I know we have people that are not in Kansas City, but if you are in Kansas City, the Wyandotte County Historical Museum, they have a great research library there and access to all kinds of records. I know that county government and city government will sometimes deaccession their old records, and they usually give them to the Wyandotte County Historical Museum. So they have old copies of marriage licenses, all kinds of things like that. The National Archives is an amazing resource. We have one here in Kansas City, the Central Plains region branch, and I think there are 12 National Archives branches around the country. So wherever you live, there's probably one close to you. I know the one in Kansas City has about 70,000 feet of records that are stored at Union Station, federal records that cover Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota. There's census data, the Dawes rolls, military records. Some of it's digitized, some of it's not. So that's another good place to look for records. The Johnson County Library has a great group of volunteers in their genealogy. They have a volunteer genealogy group that that works at the library and will help people do obituary searches if you're looking for someone who happened to live in Johnson County, Kansas. Same with the Jackson County Historical Society. It's on in the Truman Courthouse in downtown Independence, Missouri, and they have county records, school records, scrapbooks. Just they recently received a donation, well, not recently, but in the last couple of years of, I think, Laura, it was the same group that donated the glass plate negatives to us, a photography studio that was closing, and I think they donated like 1 million photographs of Kansas City. So check with your county historical society because they are definitely going to have great information. Midwest Genealogy Center, if you live near Kansas City, is an absolute must stop because it is the grandmother of genealogy libraries. This is a picture of it right here, and they have 2 floors of everything you could possibly want to look at related to genealogy and they have information for all states. I mean, probably every county in the country, there's some sort of book or record related to that, and international research as well. And just for if you're—
Wait a minute, back up. Did
Yes.
you say that Midwest Genealogy Center is at what library?
Oh, I'm sorry. It is. It's part of the Mid-Continent Public Library System. It's in Independence, Missouri.
Okay, thank you.
And the library, I went and talked to the librarian there a couple of years ago, their head librarian, and she said that people will drive their RVs from all over the country and they will camp in their RVs in the parking lot because they just have so much information that is only accessible there.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
So, and just generally speaking, not city or county specific, or not talking about any specific county, but your county government office, wherever you are, is a good place to look because they will have marriage licenses, they will have land deeds and real estate documents. They're only open, they probably only keep them back to a certain point, and then the older ones will be probably donated to a county museum or historical society, but that's always a good place to check. Local history museums, county and state historical societies, and if you're doing research in another state, check the website of that county historical society before you make a trip out there, because you never know what they have digitized, and librarians are always willing to help. And if they can grab a record or scan a document in 5 minutes that can save you a 500-mile trip, they will be happy to do so. Churches also, we get requests for a lot of requests for church records here at the library. We do not have them, but I know that that's something that is often donated to different historical societies, or just check with the church themselves. Churches can be a great resource for family information. So as far as e-resources at the library, every public library, I think, in the country probably has access to some sort of e-resource, whether it be an Ancestry subscription, you know, a subscription to the local newspaper database. I have a list here of databases that a lot of libraries subscribe to, like Gale Genealogy Connect and Heritage Quest. They can work similar. Some of them are similar to Ancestry. Some of them will provide you access to digital books on specific topics, you know, different families or different eras you can research, or you know, ethnicities. So it's worth checking out your local library's website to find that. And I will also show you where to find that here at the Kansas City, Kansas Public Library. Okay, so this is our website. And if you go to the Explore tab, you can go there. All of our databases are here under Research and Learn, but you can get to the genealogy ones most easily through the Kansas Collection page. And the Kansas room is where we have our local history special collections. If you click here on genealogy resources, this is going to take you to all the genealogy databases we have. Ancestry, it gives you a list of all kinds of different records and information we have here. But yeah, Fold 3 those are military records. I think they're owned by Ancestry, but it's kind of an add-in subscription. We have a subscription to it here at the library, so you can use it for free. Here's our yearbook project, where I mentioned the digitized yearbooks. That's where you can access all of those. And then our Kansas City Star database. This is a fantastic resource that I use all the time, because it is the Kansas City Star digitized back to 1880. So, you know, and it's keyword searchable, which is wonderful, because you can search for the person you're looking for and it will bring up any article that their name ever appeared in. These are those other databases I was telling you about, Gale Genealogy Connect and Heritage Quest. And then we link to several other websites that are really helpful, like Cindy's List. Cindy's List is kind of an aggregator website where it's a collection of links to other genealogy resources. So this is a great one to explore. And I will go over Family Search and some of these others. National Archives, also great. It gives you, you know, here's some articles about how to start your genealogy research. Here's a link to the charts and forums I was telling you about. So the National Archives is fantastic. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. Okay. And the Kansas Historical Society, if you live in Kansas, is also a great resource, because they have digitized literally millions of pages of Kansas newspapers dating back to the beginning of the state in 1860. They have the tiny town newspapers that were only published for a couple of years. If you have a Kansas driver's license, you can access this on their websites and search their newspapers for free. They also provide access to Ancestry records, Kansas records, not all of Ancestry, but you can access Kansas records from home with your driver's license. Okay, so now I am just going to do a quick demo of how to use Ancestry. Has everybody used Ancestry before? A little bit?
I just got it.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to demo kind of a basic search and some of the tools you can use to help navigate you through Ancestry. So, whoops, this is what your regular Ancestry subscription page looks like. It's about $24 a month now, I think. But we do have Ancestry Library Edition. And like I said, most local public libraries will have a subscription to Ancestry. And the difference between the library edition and the subscription edition is that with the subscription edition, you have access to your own personal tree, family tree. It is where you build your family tree. At Ancestry Library, you cannot access your family tree because it's a shared database. So, but the subscription that we have at the library is a higher tier than just your average Ancestry subscription. So, if you come to the library to do research, you will have access to international records and additional military records and things that you would not get with your basic Ancestry subscription. So it's definitely worth going to your public library if you want to do some of that more in-depth research. But this is the landing page of the library, and there are a few different points of entry or ways to start your research. You can go to one of these tabs here where if you're just interested in the census, you can access the census here or over here if you want to search a particular census. Vital records will give you marriage, birth and death information, military records. I think this probably pulls from Fold 3. I could probably do another session on Fold 3. I'm not going to demo that one right now because you will get a lot of those records through Ancestry, but the Fold 3 subscription does provide like an additional, broader access to records. And then immigration records right here can get you those ship manifests, passenger lists, naturalization records, that kind of thing. And then down here at the bottom, you have some of the same quick links. So there's several different ways to get to the same information. But, and then up here we have your basic search tab, message boards where you can get in and talk to people about that are maybe researching some of the same things you are. The Learning Center here is really great. It gives you articles on getting started, how to use the census, once you've kind of gotten the basics, where you can move on and find other things, ethnic research, if you're doing researching your African-American ancestors, or maybe Native American ancestors. So this is a great, helpful page too. And then here again are the charts and forms. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick search for one of our most famous Kansas City Kansans. And I like searching for him because his records show you all the kinds of different things you can see in Ancestry. So we know he lived in, Ed Asner was born in Kansas City, Kansas. Kansas City, why? So you'll get a drop-down list of several different places and you pick the one that you are looking for. You can also enter it through this map here, but if you know where they lived, you might as well just go ahead and type that in and then search. And you will get a plethora of records. So here's 580 records related to Ed Asner. And we can see from this picture that, here's our guy. Click on that. Oh, he was in the yearbook. So, this yearbook has been digitized, Wyandotte High School in 1947. And we get to see his football picture. So you are going to get a bunch of records and you'll want to go and kind of evaluate them. And you can either click all the way into the record, or if you just highlight or just hover over the link there, it will bring up kind of the basic information on any record that comes up. So you don't have to click all the way in and then back out again. You can just kind of highlight quickly and see, okay, the census, that's going to be pretty helpful. Here's another census. Newspapers.com obituary. Here it tells us there was an obituary for Ed Asner in the Kansas City Star last September. So I'm going to click on the census and show you how helpful the census can be. And here, this is also a good example of how you will find misspellings and all kinds of things in Ancestry. So it's worth trying to spell somebody's name a few different ways. Here we see it's Eddie Asdy. Well, because we know that this is the person we're looking for. I mean, we already know where because I've done this so I've demoed this one so many times. I know that this is our guy. We know his parents were named Morris and Lizzie. He went to Wyandotte High School. This shows his address, some information about, so you'll get a list of other people that lived in his household. Sometimes you'll get the house number, information about him, complete, wait, no, that is about him. Okay, 4th grade. So here you get, this is the transcription of what's on the record. And if you click on the source tab, this gives you your citation. So the citation is important so you can know exactly where you found that piece of information. That's something that's really important when you're doing genealogy research, is cite your sources, because you will find, you'll find something and forget to do that and think, oh my gosh, where did I find that? I need to go back and check that and make sure that, was that the same person? Well, if you have somehow cited your source, or you've saved this record, and I can show you how to do that, that source information will be there. And that's really important to be able to go back and reference again later. So back to this detail. So here's the transcription. This is what I like about Ancestry and some of these online sites, is that you get the transcription, which is easy to read. But then if you want to go in and actually look at the handwriting and see the census exactly as it appeared when it was taken, this can be really helpful too. And you can, let's see, my video window is in the way here of some of these tools. Okay, so you can zoom in. And if we zoom in on the Asner family household, okay, so you can see here, if you look at it really closely, well, that really looks like Asner, but whoever was transcribing it wrote down Asdi, and you can kind of see how, they might have written down Asdi. I was doing some research about Quindaro, Kansas, and looked at the census, and the census taker had mistranscribed Quindaro Guthrie as Omidyar. So if you were searching for Nancy Quindaro Guthrie, you would never find it in the census. You would find Omidyar Guthrie. But if you looked at it and looked at the way they had written it, you could see that, oh, that's actually Quindaro. So it's worth it to look closely at some of what's written here. But you can see that all kinds of information you can find through the census: that head of household, the relations of everybody else that lived in the household to that head of household, their age, sex, where they were born. You can see for the Asner family, Ed Asner's parents were born in Russia. Sometimes you can get level of education or household income. The census provides such great information. It's really a snapshot in time of everybody in the United States. And something that is helpful to keep in mind when you're doing census research is sometimes, if you think about it, families often lived close to each other, or maybe even, on the same street or next door. So one thing I like to do is just click these back and forth arrow buttons, and you can see it really gives you a snapshot of who else lived on the street. So maybe, the Asners had family that lived down the street, and you can find out, you can find that out just by kind of browsing nearby houses. So that is a trick you can use to maybe find additional family members that lived right around, that you didn't even know lived near the people that you were searching for. These buttons over here are really helpful. This will kind of expand and minimize the image. This button right here will give you the transcription right next to your, oops, click on, okay, no. Well, it's supposed to list the transcription right there. It did earlier. I don't know why it's not doing that now. But that way you can kind of look back and forth between the handwritten record and the transcription. Once again, your source is right here. These tools right here will allow you to flip it horizontally. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you can. Change your settings here. Rotate right or left. And then another useful tool is this save button right here, especially if you're using Ancestry Library Edition. The save button will allow you to either save it to the computer that you're working on, or if you're at the library, you can send the image home, and you just pop in your email address and you will have that record in your email, which is great. So you don't have to be printing off lots of copies and making sure you printed everything. You just email all those records to yourself and figure out what you want to do with them later. So if we go back here, so that is a census. Newspaper obituary here, this is good. These, I think Ancestry links to, newspapers.com. So even if you can't access the actual obituary through Ancestry, it will give you this information here about which paper to look in. So we know that it appeared in the September 2nd, 2021 edition of the Kansas City Star. So then you can go to your library or your newspapers.com subscription or whatever, wherever you want to access your newspapers and find the full obituary there. The other thing I really like about Ancestry is that it will give you suggested records here on the site. I'm going to go back one page because I think you can see it better there. I will, let's see, here's a city directory. Now it is not populating my suggested records. Let me try another one. I'm going to go back to the census. Okay, so over here, the algorithm in Ancestry will find other records or items it thinks are related to the person that you're searching. And I have found so many helpful things this way because it will often, if say Ed Asner had a child that got married, then you could find him listed on that marriage certificate as the parent, or you could find his parents on his marriage certificate. So that's another good way to find either the previous or the next generation if you need to find, if you're looking for those people. So this is great. He's got a lot of suggested records. So that is just a quick overview of Ancestry. And I want to show you Family Search as well. Family Search is very similar to Ancestry. But it's a free service that is volunteer run. It's run by the LDS Church. And I probably use Family Search more than Ancestry. I think they're great tools to use. They dovetail each other very well. Ancestry, I find more records I'm looking for in Ancestry, but I've really built out my family tree in Family Search. The main difference is that in Ancestry, you are building your own personal family tree that you don't necessarily share with anyone else, where Family Search is more of a community adding information to people's individual records. So it's kind of like a wiki that way, and it's collaborative. And I will show you real quick what I mean and just show you my family tree. So this is my family tree, and I started putting in my information, and I found that there was already a lot there. So it went, goes back several generations because there are other people that are researching the same families. And so this can also be a great tool when you log in and find out, oh, well, this person has already put, somebody else has already connected all of these people. And, sometimes it's correct, sometimes it's incorrect. So that's the other thing you have to be aware of when you're doing online research, is that not everybody is, citing their sources or make sure that those connections are actually the right people. But the nice thing about Family Search, and I think there are tutorials out there on how to do this, but you can, and I can't get into it today because there's a lot of detail, but you can go in and you can correct records, or you can connect different people. Say somebody had, I'm going to find somebody here too. Let's see. Just show you. Okay, Samuel Kirby Cox is my great grandfather, and so you can click on his name, and this gives you his whole, his life sketch. But say somebody had attached a different Ellen, say Ellen Peterson instead of Ellen Patterson. Well, I know that that's correct because I have, a copy of their marriage certificate that shows those two people were married. And maybe I see that Ellen Peterson was married to somebody else. So you can actually go in and correct those things. And sometimes you'll be correcting something that somebody else has contributed, and they may contact you and say, hey, why did you change that record? And there's actually a place in the individual's ID or number where you can explain, well, this record is correct because I found it here. And you can do this through Ancestry as well, but you can connect with people that are working on the same family trees that you are, some of the same ancestors. So Family Search, I think I really like the interface of Family Search. It's really easy to use. So you get, a couple and they're, Samuel Kirby Cox's parents, and then you get all of his children, and you can click in on any of these people and then you get the same thing for them. You'll get, their family listed as well. It'll take you in the same kind of record. But you can
okay, question. So I just go into familysearch.org and all that and look this up.
Yes.
Are any of these free, or do they all have a fee to them?
So Ancestry has a fee unless you're using it at a public library, then it's free, but it's the library edition and not your personal edition. Family Search is free. You just need to go in and create an account. And I should mention also that Family Search pulls from a lot of the same records and digitized documents that Ancestry does. So you will find a lot of the same information, but just depending on how you search, you can come up with different documents. So I really advocate for using both of them kind of in tandem. But I'll show you what, when I talk about citing your sources, when you do a family search and you find a record, you can go ahead and say, and you can add that to your person as a source. So here we see, Sam K. Cox in a marriage certificate for George Wesley Martin, who I think maybe married his daughter. So you can look in at the source and sure enough, okay, so George Wesley Martin married his daughter, Ada Irene. So she is connected here. And you can just go through and see all those different sources that people have connected to a specific person, all the census data, marriage records.
How do you add that source?
Okay, I'll show you. I'm just going to do a search. So I'm going to search records and I'm just going to go ahead and search for Samuel Cox. I think he was born in Illinois. Oops, I did not spell it right. Okay, in 18. Okay, so I'm going to do a search, and it's similar to Ancestry. You'll see the same kind of records come up. So now I know, and you just go through and you evaluate these records the same way you would an Ancestry. Samuel Lafayette, I know that's not him because his middle name is Kirby. Samuel H. Cox, no. Okay, I didn't put very much information there, so I'm going to go back and add some information. I know he lived in Nebraska. Oops, I got to spell things right or I'm not going to get any results.
We'll have an Adner, Addy or whatever.
Yes, okay. Okay, this is my guy. So this is the census for 1920. I know that Samuel K. Cox is the person I'm looking for. So you can view the record and then let's see. You know what? Because I think this is already attached to him. There is a button that says add as a source or add to this person, okay. Or yeah, because it says down here attached in family tree to Samuel Kirby Cox. So I might try to do another class on how to do all this because each database, Ancestry and Family Search, works a little bit differently. So
and on the library one, is it only accessible at the library, or can people log in remotely?
For Ancestry?
Yes.
It is only on site. They did offer remote access for 2 years during the pandemic, but that just ended in December. So if you want to access Ancestry without a subscription, it has to be done on site in the library. But that's where Family Search is really helpful because you can access that for free from anywhere.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So that is Family Search. Gosh, I could just talk about all these things forever, but we're gonna run out of time if I do. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about some sort of special topics in genealogy research. So a lot of us, or many of us, have ancestors that came to the United States from other countries, and you will often hit a roadblock once you get to the point where your ancestor immigrated, or before they emigrated. That's where sites like Family Search and Ancestry can be helpful, because they have forums that are dedicated to researching specific ancestors from specific countries. You can connect with other people that are doing the same research. If you have the higher tier ancestry subscription, you can actually access a lot of those international records, but they're in a foreign language. So if you don't have someone to translate for you, or they're not translated, it can be tricky to figure out exactly what they mean. So it can be, it's challenging to trace your ancestors outside of the United States, but it is definitely possible. African-American research. We have offered a class on African-American genealogy research in the past, and we probably will again soon. But you can run into some of the same issues when researching African-American ancestors, because once you get before the Civil War, a lot of records you find will not have much information. The census only lists the head of household. There is a head of household with the number of people that live in the household, so no information about the family, or if they were slaveholders, the list of those people. Once you get to 1850, free African Americans are listed on the census, but yeah, not until 1850 or later. Ancestry and Family Search both have pages that are devoted to specific ethnic research. And there's some really great sites for African American research. Afrogenius is a database that has all kinds of records. It has records of enslaved people, death and marriage records, census schedules. There's a surname database, and there's also message boards and good ways to connect with other people doing similar research. The Digital Library on American Slavery is another database that has county court and legislative petitions, wills, inventory, deeds, bills of sale, all kinds of records that might help you trace your ancestors. Afro-Louisiana History and Genealogy, that is a database of 100,000 enslaved people that lived in Louisiana, collected during 15 years of research by a professor from Rutgers University. So that's a helpful tool as well. Documenting the American South and Low Country Africana. These are both great regional specific websites that have lots of records about those specific states. And then there is an ongoing effort to digitize as many African-American heritage records as possible. You can volunteer to transcribe those records on Family Search. It's a great way to, that these databases are expanding all the time. Okay, and then if you're researching your Native American heritage, one of the most important tools you can use, or one of the best tools you can use, are the Indian census rolls. They were taken from 1885 to 1940, and they will not list every tribal member from every tribe, but that is an important way to trace your ancestry back to a specific tribe or specific region. The Indian, let's see, yeah. The Dawes rolls lists individuals that were accepted for membership in the 5 civilized tribes in Oklahoma, so the Cherokee, Creek, Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Seminole, from 1898 to 1914. And they continue to be the basis for determining tribal membership, and ancestry must be traced back to those census rolls. And this page right here on the Department of the Interior, it shows you, it really goes into detail about how you can begin to search for your Native American ancestors. National Archives as well. There's lots of information you can find there, lots of tutorials and articles about researching Native American ancestors. And I know some of you are members of the Wyandotte Nation, and you probably already know about this project, but we're working on with the Wyandotte Nation to digitize a collection of Wyandotte historical materials that are housed here at the library, the William Conley Collection. And so far, we have scanned 15,000. We have 15,000 individual digital files that are going to be uploaded to the Wyandotte Heritage Digital Archive. And that should be, I think the project will be finished by summer of 2023. So there are 19th century documents about Wyandotte history and families. There's genealogy information. So that is going to be a great resource for researching Wyandotte heritage and Wyandotte history. Some important tips to keep in mind when you're doing your work. Like I said before, cite your work, because that is going to be so important to remember where you found what you found. Everything that you run across or everything that you might think you know is a hypothesis until you have a document that really shows you that, yes, this did happen, or yes, this is this person. Keeping a good filing system is critical as well, or keeping yourself organized, whether it's a paper system like the family group sheets and putting them in binders, or an electronic system where you have families grouped together in digital files, whatever you need to do to kind of keep things organized. I inherited my grandmother's entire genealogy research collection that was 20 boxes of papers, loose papers and binders and photos. And I'm wishing that she had a better organizational system, because it's challenging to go back through, but there's lots of information there. Another thing to keep in mind is locks, LOCKSS. Lots of copies keep stuff safe. It's a very technical term, but it's very important to remember that if you have a paper copy and a digital copy, or if you have something saved in the cloud, redundancy is your friend when you're doing research, because if you get a virus on your computer and your hard drive is wiped out, you still have a paper copy, or you still have it in the cloud. Or if you have a fire or something else happens, or water damage to your paper records, then you have a digitized version. So it's really important to keep multiple copies of your research and things that you find. A few things to remember, like I mentioned, last names are often misspelled. So try a variety of spellings. If you're looking for a Johnson, Johnson, S-O-N, Johnson, S-E-N, S-I-N, all different spellings will help you find the people that you're looking for. Also, using a wildcard, which is an asterisk. So, for example, I've been researching my Leitchuk family, and that's a name that is always misspelled. So whenever I'm searching for a member of the Leitchuk family that I don't have information about, I search it Leitsch asterisk, which just means that it will search for anything with that spelling plus any possible combination of letters after the asterisk. So it's a good way to kind of get, instead of having to search for the S-O-N, S-E-N, S, whatever, you can do Johnson, John S asterisk, and it will bring up all those records for you. So that's a helpful tool to use. Tracing your female ancestors can be hard too, especially if you don't know their maiden name. So, if you do know their maiden name, that can help you find additional information about their families, but just keep in mind that you will have to search for maiden name and married name to find information about your female ancestors. When you're searching the census, it's important to note that the 1890 census was almost entirely destroyed by a fire in 1921. So you will really, I think there are only maybe 3 counties in the entire country that survived that fire. Same with some military records. I know there was a big fire at a military record storage site in St. Louis that destroyed a lot of, I think almost 75% of records from Air Force personnel discharged between 1947 and 1964 are gone. So you'll find big chunks of information missing if there happened to be a fire or some other kind of natural disaster. And there's also a 72-year privacy restriction on census data. So right now, the most current census that's available is 1940. And actually this year, the National Archives will release the 1950 census. And whenever that happens, they usually have all kinds of, they'll have a celebration, they'll have all kinds of programs and information on their website about the 1950 census and things that are special about that census, or they offer help on searching the census. So the National Archives is a great place to get help too. I think I mentioned that earlier, but just in case I didn't. So if you need more help, it's always great to reach out to your local public library, because librarians just want to help you. They want to help you find information, and they love to help do research, and they will be happy to do so. And especially if you're researching ancestors that that were from another state or settled in another part of the country, reach out to those public libraries, because they will be more than happy to help. National Archives, I mentioned. Family Search has great tutorials and wikis, as does Ancestry. I know Laura, who's on our call today, got some help through Family Search. And Laura, can you just talk briefly about how they were able to help you?
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with Ann's recommendation to look at their tutorials first. I did not do that. I barreled right in and thought I could figure it out. And what I find with Family Search is once you make a mistake, it's not the easiest thing to correct. And I tried and couldn't make it happen. And so finally, I opened up a chat with them, and they have a literal army of volunteers that help people. And so they're in a different time zone. And so they worked with me to schedule a time at my convenience so that they could connect me with the volunteer. He spent an entire hour with me. I think that's the amount of time they're designated to help people with. So he walked me through making the correction that I needed. And then he said, well, we still have about 45 minutes. I see some other things I'd like to help you correct. Do you mind? And I'm like, oh, no, I don't mind. Let's go ahead. And so I wish that I had looked at all of their tutorials first before barreling in. But they are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to work with. And he was so nice. And I said, okay, I can't remember his name, John. If I call again, how do I get you? And he just laughed. And he said, oh, honey, there's 1,800 of us. You'll never get me again. And, but he said, everybody's equally qualified. And I feel like that might be my retirement gig, is when I retire, I'm going to help Family Search.
Yeah. And they're also, Family Search has, I think they're called Family Research Centers all over the country. There's one in Kansas City, Kansas, I think in a church basement, where they have volunteers that can help you as well. So if you go to their help page on their website, you can find out where those Family Research Centers are. Books, there's so many helpful books on ancestry or on genealogy research, on, like I mentioned before, on every possible topic. And I'm here to help too. I'm happy to do a one-on-one Zoom call with someone. If you've run into if you've hit a brick wall, I may not be able to find exactly what you're looking for, but sometimes it's just helpful to have a fresh set of eyes on your research, and I can definitely help you find other places to look. And if you live in Kansas City, we also have a genealogy drop-in session here at the library on Tuesday mornings from 10 to 12. Come up to the Kansas room, and you can use all our resources here and log on to our all of our databases, and I'm here to help. So if there's anything I can do to help, just feel free to email me at alacey@kckpl.org. I can send you these slides if that's helpful. If you want some of the links that we talked about today, happy to do that. So if you have any questions, anybody have any questions for me now?
Yeah, on the cemetery index, do you know if the Huron Cemetery is on one of those indexes?
Yes, we have it. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
And that should probably be something. In fact, I think we've probably digitized it already, because it would have been part of the Conley collection too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the page where you posted the free websites?
Yes.
I didn't quite get those down.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, familysearch.org.
And some of these sites will pull into Family Search and Ancestry, like Find a Grave. It will connect to Find a Grave because that's a database of, gravestones, and yeah, that may be the only one. Legacy.com is a subscription obituary service, but yeah, Family Searches and Cindy's List are probably the best free websites out there.
Well, I really do take offense at you saying that you started kind of old, because you're definitely not old.
I should have started earlier.
Yeah, I am, and I have not ever gotten into doing this because I just didn't need to. But I'm kind of interested in it now.
It is fascinating, the things that you find.
Yeah, but thank you for putting this on.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions about anything we talked about or anything we didn't talk about?
Great job. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And like I said, I recorded this and I will send the link out to everybody. So if there's anything you want to look back at again, you are more than welcome to, and it'll be posted on the library's YouTube channel.
Okay,
Awesome.
great.
All right. Thank
you,
you so
Ann.
much, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Very good.
And I don't think I ever showed